Steve Jobs believed that passion is the foundation of greatness. He once said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." This wasn't just a statement, it was the way he lived his life. From dropping out of college to pursuing projects that others saw as impractical, Jobs followed what truly fascinated him. He understood that passion isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity for anyone who wants to create something meaningful. Without passion, work becomes a burden, and without love for what you do, success becomes empty. Jobs' journey proves that those who chase their true calling, no matter how unconventional, are the ones who leave a lasting impact. When Steve Jobs dropped out of college, many thought he was making a mistake. But he didn't leave because he was lost, he left because he was searching for something that truly inspired him. He stopped following a set path and started exploring. One of the classes he took during this time was calligraphy. At that moment, it seemed like a pointless pursuit. But years later, that very knowledge became the foundation for Apple's beautiful typography, setting Macintosh computers apart from everything else in the industry. This proves that passion often leads us in unpredictable directions, but every step has a purpose. When you follow what excites you, even if it doesn't seem practical at first, it can shape your future in ways you can't yet imagine. Most people settle for jobs or careers that feel safe. They follow what society expects, not what their heart truly desires. But Steve Jobs rejected this idea. He knew that settling for something, just because it's practical, leads to a life of regret. He refused to waste time on something he didn't love. This mindset is what made Apple different. He didn't build products just to sell them, he built products he was obsessed with. That obsession translated into excellence. When you are deeply passionate about something, you naturally push yourself to do better. You go the extra mile, not because you have to, but because you want to. That's the difference between someone who succeeds and someone who merely survives. Passion is what gives you the resilience to keep going when things get tough. If Jobs had pursued Apple just for the money, he would have given up when he was fired from his own company. But he didn't stop. He went on to build NXT and Pixar, two companies that would redefine both technology and animation. His passion for innovation never faded, and eventually he returned to Apple stronger than ever. Without passion, failure can feel like the end, but when you love what you do, setbacks become fuel for the next chapter. Many people are afraid to follow their passion because they think it's risky. But the real risk is spending your life doing something that doesn't fulfill. The time will pass anyway. The years will go by whether you chase your dreams or not. So why not spend them doing something you truly love? Steve Jobs taught the world that passion isn't just a dream, it's a strategy. It's the force that makes hard work feel effortless, that turns obstacles into stepping stones, and that transforms an ordinary life into something extraordinary. Steve Jobs believed that life doesn't always make sense in the moment, but when you look back, everything connects. He once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward." This simple yet profound idea means that every experience, every setback, and every unexpected turn is part of a larger plan, even if we don't realize it at the time. People often try to predict their future, thinking they need to have everything figured out before taking action. But the truth is, clarity only comes when we reflect on the journey. Jobs' own life was proof of this philosophy. When he dropped out of college, he had no idea that taking a calligraphy class would later define Apple's unique design. At the time, it seemed like an unrelated choice, but looking back, it was a crucial piece of the puzzle. This is how life works. The events that feel random or even frustrating today might be shaping something far greater than we can currently see. It's only later, when we have the full picture, that everything makes sense. People often get discouraged when things don't go according to plan. They believe failure is a sign to give up. But what if failure is actually redirection? Jobs himself experienced this when he was forced out of Apple, the company he built. It was devastating, but instead of giving up, he used that time to create NXT and Pixar, both of which played a critical role in his comeback. If he had stayed at Apple without being fired, he might not have developed the ideas and leadership skills that later helped him transform the company. His biggest setback turned out to be one of the most important dots in his journey. This idea applies to everyone. Every rejection, every failure, and every painful moment could be part of something much bigger. But most people don't see it because they are too focused on the immediate disappointment. They judge their journey based on a single chapter rather than the whole story. The key is to trust that every step has meaning, even when the destination is unclear. Sometimes what seems like a mistake or a wasted opportunity turns out to be exactly what was needed. Looking back at any successful person's journey, you'll see a pattern of unexpected turns. No one has a straight path to greatness. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that successful people keep moving forward even when they don't understand where the road is leading. They trust that one day the dots will connect. They embrace uncertainty rather than fear it. Life is unpredictable, and no one can control every outcome. But what we can control is how we respond. Instead of resisting change or feeling lost when things don't go as planned, we can choose to believe that everything is happening for a reason. The missed opportunities, the difficult choices, the failures, all of them are shaping us in ways we can't yet comprehend. One day, when we look back, we'll realize that the things we once worried about were actually the stepping stones to something greater. That realization will come later, but for now, all we need to do is keep going. Steve Jobs built Apple on one powerful idea: think different. This wasn't just a slogan, it was a mindset, a way of approaching life, work, and innovation. He believed that the people who challenge the status quo, who refuse to accept limits, and who dare to think beyond the ordinary are the ones who change the world. Instead of following trends, Jobs created them. Instead of asking what was possible, he asked what was impossible, and then set out to make it real. This philosophy is what separated him from others and turned Apple into a revolutionary company. Most people live within the boundaries that society sets for them. They follow conventional wisdom, believing that if something has always been done a certain way, then that must be the best way. But Steve Jobs rejected that kind of thinking. He didn't just want to improve existing technology, he wanted to redefine it. When he introduced the first iPhone, the world had never seen anything like it. Before Apple phones had physical keyboards, and the idea of a touchscreen device that eliminated them seemed unrealistic. But Jobs wasn't interested in what others thought was possible, he was only interested in what could be possible. He proved that real innovation happens when you challenge assumptions and refuse to accept limitations. Thinking differently isn't just about creativity, it's about courage. It means being willing to stand alone, to question traditions, and to take risks that others are too afraid to take. Many of the greatest ideas in history were laughed at before they were accepted. When Jobs introduced the iPad, critics mocked it as an unnecessary device. Years later, tablets became a massive industry. The same happened with the Mac, the iPod, and the iPhone. The lesson is clear: people may not understand your vision at first, but if you believe in something strongly enough, you must pursue it despite the doubt of others. The reason most people never reach their full potential is that they are afraid to break the rules. They stay within their comfort zones, following the same patterns, doing what is expected. But nothing truly great has ever come from comfort. The ones who change the world, the artists, the inventors, the leaders, are the ones who push past their fear of failure. Jobs understood that failure was part of the process. He was fired from his own company, but instead of seeing it as the end, he saw it as an opportunity. He used that time to build Pixar and NXT, and in doing so, he gained new insights that ultimately helped him transform Apple when he returned. Thinking differently means seeing obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. In every industry, in every field, there is always a normal way of doing things. Most people follow it because it feels safe. But those who rise to the top are the ones who dare to question it. They look at what everyone else is doing and ask, is there a better way? They are willing to take risks, even if it means failing, because they know that innovation doesn't come from playing it safe. Jobs showed that it's not enough to be slightly better than the competition, you have to redefine the game entirely. That's what thinking differently is all about. It's about refusing to settle for mediocrity, pushing boundaries, and creating something that the world has never seen before. Steve Jobs understood that success is never a straight path. It is filled with failures, rejections, and moments of doubt. What separates those who achieve greatness from those who give up is resilience, the ability to keep pushing forward no matter what. Jobs faced obstacles that would have made most people quit, but he never let failure define him. Instead, he used every setback as fuel to come back stronger. His life was a testament to the power of persistence, proving that those who refuse to give up are the ones who change the world. One of the greatest examples of his resilience was when he was fired from Apple, the very company he built. After pouring his heart and soul into creating a revolutionary business, he was suddenly removed by the very people he had helped bring in. It was a devastating moment, one that could have broken him. But instead of giving in to anger or despair, he used it as an opportunity. He went on to create NXT, a company focused on high-end computing, and invested in Pixar, turning it into the most successful animation studio in the world. Years later, Apple bought NXT, and Jobs was brought back to lead the company he had started. He didn't just return, he transformed Apple into one of the most valuable companies in history. Had he given up when things got tough, none of that would have happened. Resilience is not just about surviving failure, it is about learning from it. Jobs understood that every challenge was a lesson. When the original Macintosh computer failed to take over the market, he didn't see it as a defeat, he saw it as a stepping stone. He realized that to truly innovate, he had to build products that were not only beautiful, but also practical and accessible to the masses. This lesson shaped his future work, leading to the development of products like the iMac, iPod, and iPhone devices that changed the way people interacted with technology. Every setback made him stronger, more focused, and more determined. Most people fear failure because they see it as the end of the road. But Jobs saw it differently. He believed that failure was just part of the journey to success. He often spoke about how people should not let setbacks define them, but rather use them as motivation to push forward. This mindset is what allowed him to take risks that others wouldn't. He was not afraid to challenge conventional thinking, even when critics doubted him. He trusted in his vision and was willing to go through the struggles necessary to bring it to life. The world is full of talented people who never achieve their dreams because they give up too soon. Talent alone is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough. Even great ideas are not enough. The real key to success is resilience, the ability to keep going when everything seems to be falling apart. Jobs embodied this principle in everything he did. His journey was filled with ups and downs, but he never allowed the failures to stop him. Instead, he embraced them, learned from them, and came back stronger every time. His story proves that persistence is the real difference between success and failure. It is not about how many times you fall, but how many times you get back up. Steve Jobs lived with an acute awareness that time is limited. He often spoke about how the realization of mortality shaped his decisions, his focus, and his relentless drive to create. He once said, "If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today?" If the answer was no too many days in a row, he knew something needed to change. This philosophy was not just a reminder, but a guiding principle that allowed him to prioritize what truly mattered. The knowledge that life is short gave him the urgency to make bold moves, take risks, and avoid wasting time on things that did not align with his vision. Most people live as if they have unlimited time. They postpone their dreams, waiting for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, or more courage. They stay stuck in jobs they dislike, relationships that drain them, and routines that make them feel empty. They convince themselves that they will pursue their passions someday. But Jobs understood that someday is not guaranteed. Too many people die with their dreams still inside them because they waited too long. He refused to let that happen to him. Every decision he made was driven by a sense of urgency, as if he were racing against time. When he was diagnosed with cancer, this perspective became even more real. He spoke openly about how facing death made everything else seem insignificant. The fear of failure, the opinions of others, the small inconveniences of daily life, all of it faded in comparison to the realization that time was running out. He encouraged people to live with that same awareness, not to wait until tragedy struck to finally start living fully. Most people only wake up to the value of time after they have lost it. But the real challenge is to recognize it now, while there is still time to act. Living as if today were your last does not mean making reckless decisions. It means being intentional. It means asking, am I spending my time on things that truly matter? Jobs did not waste time on projects that did not excite him. He did not engage in work that felt meaningless. He focused only on creating things that he believed would make an impact. This is why Apple's products were not just devices but works of art, designed with care and purpose. He poured himself fully into his work because he knew that every day was an opportunity to build something meaningful. The biggest enemy of this mindset is complacency. It is easy to fall into routines and let days slip by without real progress. People assume they have time, but in reality, every moment wasted is a moment that can never be regained. Jobs' philosophy serves as a wake-up call. If today were truly the last day, would you be satisfied with how you spent it? Would you regret not taking risks, not speaking your truth, not pursuing what you love? Most people would. The key is to break free from the illusion that there will always be more time and start living with purpose now. Those who live with urgency create extraordinary lives. They do not wait for permission. They do not let fear hold them back. They take action, they build, they create. Jobs' legacy is not just in the products he left behind, but in the lesson that life is too short to settle for anything less than what sets your soul on fire. The people who truly change the world are the ones who understand that time is their most valuable resource and refuse to waste it. Steve Jobs believed that ideas are worthless without action. No matter how brilliant a thought, a plan, or a dream is, it means nothing if it stays in your head. He understood that the difference between those who achieve greatness and those who don't is simple: taking action. Many people wait for the perfect moment, but Jobs never believed in waiting. He believed in doing. He knew that progress doesn't come from endless planning or overthinking, but from taking the first step and continuously moving forward. His entire career was built on this principle. He didn't wait for Apple to be perfect before launching it. He started in a garage with what he had. He didn't wait until the Macintosh, the iPod, or the iPhone were flawless. He released them, learned from the feedback, and improved them over time. He believed that real change happens when people stop talking about what they want to do and start doing it. The biggest mistake people make is convincing themselves that they need more time, more resources, or more knowledge before they start. They tell themselves they'll begin when they have everything figured out, but that moment never comes. Jobs knew this was a trap. If he had waited for the right time, Apple would have never existed. Instead, he embraced imperfection and trusted that action itself would lead to clarity. The act of doing reveals the next step. Waiting does nothing. This is the challenge. Take action now. Not tomorrow. Not next week, right now. Most people consume motivational content, feel inspired, and then go back to their routines without making real changes. Inspiration is useless without execution. Jobs didn't admire great innovators, he became one. He didn't just dream about changing the world, he actually did it. That is the challenge. Stop watching, stop waiting, and start building, creating, and executing. There will never be a perfect time, and there will never be certainty. The only thing that matters is starting. Jobs' entire life was proof that action leads to breakthroughs. When he started Apple, he didn't know it would become a global empire. When he was fired from his own company, he didn't know he would return stronger. When he invested in Pixar, he didn't know it would revolutionize animation. But he took action anyway. He understood that the path becomes clear only in hindsight, and the only way to move forward is to step into the unknown. The people who achieve the impossible are the ones who stop waiting for guarantees and start moving forward despite the uncertainty. This is the 2-hour challenge. Make a decision and act on it immediately. Whether it's starting that project, making that call, learning that skill, or finally stepping into the unknown, the only requirement is action. The world is filled with people who have great ideas but never execute them. Jobs was different because he turned his ideas into reality. He understood that momentum creates success, and the only way to gain momentum is by taking that first step. The difference between success and regret is simple action. Those who take action, even imperfectly, move forward. Those who hesitate remain stuck. The challenge is clear. Stop thinking about what you want to do and start doing it. The next 2 hours can change everything. Every great achievement in history began with a single step, and the only thing stopping you from taking yours is the decision to act.